Do you remember when Ukraine-gate, so to say, flared up, and we were told that this newest march toward impeachment was going to be focused strictly on a very narrow question of whether Trump sought to enlist a foreign power to investigate one of his political adversaries? And it was called bribery, extortion, whatever, but it was insisted to us by all the highly knowledgeable people in the Democratic Party and in their friendly precincts and media that it was going to be a narrowly tailored impeachment. Well, Nancy Pelosi, although she hadn't really hid this in the past, but today she confirmed that that was always a total joke, because today she got up before the assembled press corps and announced that she was directing the Judiciary Committee to draft articles of impeachment. This was pretty much a foregone conclusion, regardless of today's statement, but after her statement, she took some questions. And I'm going to show you two clips from that Q&A. One of them is her sort of preemptively responding to a criticism that you see floated by not so intelligent commentators that they're rushing into this impeachment. Usually Republicans will use this pretty superficial criticism. They're going too quickly and they're not giving Trump his due process, and therefore the whole impeachment exercise is illegitimate because it's simply at too high a speed or something. And Pelosi, in sort of anticipating that objection, revealed something significant. And here it is.
I'm glad you asked that question, because all I hear from the press is that I'm moving so swiftly that it's like a blur going by. This has been a couple of years, 2.5, since the initial investigation of the Russian involvement in America's election, which started much of this and then led to other things.
Okay, so that's Pelosi saying that this process was not expedited, it was not excessively swift, because, in fact, it all began 2.5 years ago, maybe even longer, maybe even before Trump took office. But the point in the chronological timeline that she identifies as the beginning of the impeachment process was the appointment of the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and that took place in May of 2017. And as Pelosi indicates, all that went on with Mueller, how consumed the nation was by that, how it dominated American political dialogue for so long, none of that simply went away. In fact, she says it created the basis or the framework from which the Ukraine issue sort of arose as this ancillary development. But you can't separate it, according to Pelosi. And this is something that I was arguing and people were telling me I was crazy. But it's coming straight from the horse's mouth. Ukraine-gate is inextricably linked, in the minds of the people carrying out this impeachment process, namely Pelosi, to all that preceded it in terms of Mueller. Remember, before anybody even knew that Trump had a phone call with the Ukrainian president, more than half of the House Democratic caucus had already endorsed the initiation of impeachment proceedings solely with respect to Mueller. Now, there was some debate as to whether what Mueller furnished, both in his report and then in his anticlimactic congressional testimony, was sufficient to move forward with official impeachment proceedings. But nonetheless, it was in the ether, clearly, and had been as a result of Mueller, meaning people were jonesing for impeachment for a long time, and all that energy, impeachment-wise, was focused on Mueller. And then, like some divine intervention, came this Ukraine episode, which had all these thematic parallels with Mueller and some literal parallels in the infamous phone call with Zelensky in July of this year. Trump actually was on the phone making fun of Mueller, essentially. Like, he mentioned him by name. And Mueller kind of gave the rhetorical and political framework for casting this Ukraine episode as another instance of Trump maliciously soliciting foreign interference. It's not a mystery why they are impeaching about this Ukraine issue. It's because it has such an easily discernible connection to Mueller, because what Mueller was investigating was whether Trump colluded or solicited illegally foreign interference in the 2016 election. So they're impeaching Trump on the basis of Mueller, and Pelosi couldn't have been any clearer about that in her subsequent comments today. So take a look.
And let me just say this. This isn't, we are saying the Ukraine. The Ukraine was the vehicle of the president's action, asking a president of another country to make an announcement that he was investigating the president's political opponent and withholding military assistance that was voted by the Congress of the United States, unless and until he did so, the president did so. But this isn't about Ukraine. This is about Russia, who benefited by our withholding of that military assistance. Russia. It's about Russia. Russia invading eastern Ukraine. Over 10,000 people died, now maybe 13,000, some of them in the absence of our conveying that military assistance that was voted in a bipartisan way by the Congress of the United States. So sometimes people say, well, I don't know about Ukraine, I don't know that much about Ukraine. Well, our adversary in this is Russia. All roads lead to Putin. Understand that.
All roads lead to Putin. Hot doggy. Need I say more? Need there now be any question as to whether the Trump-Russia saga is the impetus for this impeachment episode? Straight from Pelosi, we're told now, without any ambiguity at all, that impeachment is not even about Ukraine. She said that. Ukraine is just the vehicle for enacting what they long wanted to enact in terms of the Mueller investigation. Remember, the Mueller report essentially functioned as an impeachment referral. That's the way it was structured. That's why Mueller didn't render any formal judgment as to whether the charges he outlined in terms of obstruction or anything else were prosecutable. He was saying, Congress, this is now in your territory, so you hold the president to account, quote unquote, using your constitutionally prescribed duties. And they took that to heart. So, all roads lead to Putin, baby. You can't get any more unambiguous than Pelosi was there. So, all of this kind of all these sort of arcane discussions about the precise details of the Ukraine phone call and the withholding of military aid and the timing of the military aid ultimately being dispensed, all that is worth engaging with on some level because it's like the dominant cable news chatter storyline and it's on social media too, so you have to deal with that. But if you step back on a fundamental level, what we're being told by the person who is most critical in terms of actually bringing forth impeachment against the president is that it's all kind of a sideshow. In fact, Russia is the reason why the House Democratic Caucus is moving toward an impeachment. That's why we're now going to have to deal with a possibly protracted Senate trial in which several of the major presidential candidates are going to be jurors. I don't have to list them, but I will. Bernie, Warren, formerly Harris, R.I.P., Klobuchar, Booker, and even the lowly Michael Bennett. Even he will have to be there instead of, putting pedal to the metal in Iowa, whatever he's doing. So it's all about Russia. Still, even many months after the Mueller report, even slightly fewer, but still many months after that embarrassing Mueller congressional testimony. And that's where we're at. So this is the culmination of all the energies that were devoured by the Russia story since before Trump even took office. This is what it's all leading up to. And we're being told that directly and without any ambiguity whatsoever by the person who is in charge of the impeachment process. So I'll still deal with the details of the Ukraine stuff. There are still interesting nuggets there that should, I think, be given more attention. But at bottom, they're going to impeach the president on the basis of what is essentially a debunked conspiracy theory. I'm sorry, it's just true. And that's a sad statement about our present political situation. So, talk to you later.